Blood Time, the podcast that speaks to the bond, the emotion between coach and athlete at the interscholastic and intercollegiate level. Each interview, each segment will reveal that bond and what was learned, how they were transformed, and what each athlete took to the world at large from that transformation. These stories will warm your heart and astound you altogether. Submitted for your approval. Now it is Blood Time. This is Blood Time. I want to thank Maverick Peters, producer extraordinaire of MV Podcasting. Thanks, Mav. But I want to thank my previous guest, Barry Broom, the CEO of the Sacramento Economics Council and former John Carroll wrestler, and his message for the day of integrity and preparation. Well, that leads me into our next guest, Jason Thomas, a major in the United States Army, and he's coming to us live from El Paso, Texas, at Fort Bliss. And I'm going to add, not only does this guy have integrity and he's prepared, but he also has a lot of courage. Jason, how are you?
Hey, how's it going, Pete? Very good.
Welcome to Blood Time, my man.
Oh, I'm glad to be here.
So we wanted to talk about what blood time means, Jason. And blood time is not just blood time in our sport of wrestling when you get injured and you got to take time out to stop the bleeding. But blood time is when the coach and the athlete, either at the high school or college level, come together and they form an understanding. And that understanding, that glue, transforms that athlete, and that transformation then is taken into his career, into his chosen profession. And what does that athlete do with that transformation? And you and I have had numerous conversations about this. And what did the wrestling room mean to you, and what did that transformation inspire you to do, and what you're doing currently today?
Well, I can tell you, Pete, that wrestling is who I am. I mean, we've known each other for 30 plus years. Started wrestling at 4 or 5 years old.
Right.
And everything I do every day, the foundation was from wrestling. Obviously, you have your parents that build the core foundation, but if I didn't have wrestling, I wouldn't be where I am today. Every situation I come into, when it's a tough situation, the first thing that comes to mind is when we were in the wrestling room.
Gotcha.
Because that's really those times are some of the toughest that you'll ever have, and mostly nothing will come close to that. Overcoming adversity. The first times you overcome adversity when you're one-on-one in a wrestling match. You taught us as a coach was, you don't lose. You do whatever you can to beat your opponent, and that just transforms into my life. That's who I am. When
you were at Miami, did you make the decision to go into the Army? How did that come about, Jason?
I always knew from an early age that I wanted to join. It was when will that ever happen? And it got put off a little bit because I graduated from college and got into the business world. And, was working behind a desk and really didn't find the meaning that I found with wrestling, the camaraderie, the bonds that you have. And September 11th happened. And that was the tip off that said, you know what, I'm 27 years old. If I don't make the decision now to serve my country, then I'm not going to be happy with myself. I'm going to be sitting there 40, 50 years old and wonder what would my life would have been like if I would have served. That decision right there goes along with every decision I made after that point, that you never miss that opportunity. You never miss that opportunity to take that shot in wrestling. Right. And that transpired. And I'll tell you, that was the best decision I could have ever made. Everything I've done from becoming a leader from that point on to moving up the ladder, start down at a buck private and move your way up to a major, and continuing on to prosper with my military career. That stems the core from that. You'll always go back to the wrestling.
That's an amazing transition. Tell me a little bit about Iraq. How did the wrestling room affect you there?
Yeah, I tell you, it's a great question because Iraq was one of those things that I'm blessed that I came home.
Yes.
Because many of my troops and my family, so to speak, did not come home. Yes. They weren't fortunate enough. So I was fortunate enough to have that opportunity, come home alive, to bring them back to their families. Every day that I went on a mission, I always thought about, you know what, this is tough. It's one of the toughest things I ever did in my life, to know that you're going outside the lines and going into harm's way every single day, and you don't know whether or not you're gonna come back alive. But as you're fighting through the battles, it's almost like a match. You train yourself to be able to withstand that. And if I didn't have the wrestling that you taught us, you know, the collegiate, you know, and all that time that I knew that I was trained to a point where I was going to make sure that I was trained harder than my opponent. Right. And that transferred into the wartime, because if you train yourself, then you just leave the rest up to God. God thought that, you know, obviously my time wasn't over. You know, I was blessed to go ahead, and I thought about it every day, and I thought, you know what? Yeah, this is tough. Being out there in 130-degree heat is unbearable, but you know what? We set the temperature in our wrestling room to 110. So
back in the day, yeah, we don't do that anymore, but back in the day we did. Yeah, we got away with a lot of things back in the day.
Exactly, but you know what? You know, everything we did, a lot of what we did was transferred into how you actually transfer that into your life, and how you actually hit that hurdle, depending on no matter what you do, to be able to succeed. You know, it all goes back to wrestling.
That's amazing, and you know, you bring in that family feeling, that camaraderie, and it's hard to find in the business world unless you really know your why. You really are passionate about why you're doing what you're doing, not what you're doing, not how you're doing, but why you're doing it. And so what I'm hearing from you is, and I get goosebumps when you tell me about this transition, is that you really knew your why from a young age of why you're here on this planet. And wrestling gave you maybe a process or a protocol or a platform, if you will, any three of those P's, in which to engender that and bring it to the real world, which is as real as it gets when you go to Iraq and into war. Am I correct?
Yes, absolutely. And I'll tell you, Pete, we were fortunate, because I know that obviously growing up in the city that we grew up in, and very fortunate to have the coaches we had, because I know that I've talked to other people that went to other cities and didn't have that ability, but you have that one common core, which is wrestling.
Right.
You know, I know that we worked harder than other people. We did things differently because you were, you know, you were in the program as well as others. We were gifted with that.
Right.
But there is that common core of wrestling. It's one-on-one. It's you against the other person. If you fail, it's because, you know what, maybe you're not trying hard enough, or maybe you're not practicing hard enough. You can't blame the quarterback. You can't blame the wide receiver for not catching the ball. It's you. There was always that family, knowing that, you know what, if we ever need something, you're always there. Right. And that transfers into a 30-year relationship.
We are blood, my man.
You know?
We are blood. There's no question.
And blood time. I mean, this is blood that transfers. And to this day, as you know, I'm still friends with, you know, over 50% of the people that I was on the wrestling mat with every day in the wrestling room within that city. So that's something that you don't recreate, you know.
And so with that type of foundation, tell me a little bit about how you're transferring that into your current role as a major on a very important fort of our country. Tell me a little bit about how that is transformed, and how do you inspire your troops, if you will?
A lot of it in the same way, Pete. I mean, basically, it's all about knowing that if I'm going to do something and I'm going to tell my troops to do something, they're going to know I'm not just telling them because it's something that they should do, but I'm going to go down there and do it with them.
Right.
It's part of the family. That's building that family at an early point. Knowing and building it to the point of, you know what, I'm here with them.
Right.
I'm here to teach them, but they're also going to follow me. They're not going to follow me because I tell them to do something. They're going to follow me because they want to.
Right.
They want to do it. Right. There are many leaders out there that they're just going to do it because they have to.
Yeah.
But the good leaders are the ones that actually, you build that bond with them. You do, you know, physical training with them. You get down there on the ground floor like we had in the wrestling room. The coaches would actually wrestle with us.
Right.
they're not just up there, barking orders, but they're going to get down and they're going to get in the dirt with us and they're going to actually teach us. And that's exactly how I transpired it with my troops. I get down there, I work with them. I'm here on the days where it's, when it's hot, when it's cold, whatever the case may be, and they appreciate that.
Right.
And then they want to actually do that. They want to actually complete the mission. In Iraq, they want to go ahead and fight with you. They'll take that hill with you, knowing that, you know what, we may not come home, but I'm going to take it because I trust Major Thomas. I trust that he's going to make the right decision to get us over that hill, to make the right corner, to break into that house, because we know that the bad guy's in there. And
yes.
and actually getting that bond with him, it's the same way that we did in wrestling. We got that bond to know that, you know what, I got the best coach in my corner. Well, you know what, I got the best leader with Major Thomas in my corner, and that's how you get the people to follow you.
Sure. And I think that trust comes from consistency, clarity, and also knowing that you're having their best interests in your heart and in your mind. And that's what you're saying, is that they know that they can rely on the consistent behavior of those types of high quality attributes. Am I correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely. They can rely on that behavior. They know that that they got a leader that actually has been there, has done it,
right,
and isn't looking out just for their best interest. Because you have those leaders. You have those leaders that basically will have you do something just because it benefits them. And
sure,
those aren't the leaders that you want. You want the leaders that are actually going to stand up there, have you do something, work with them, because they're doing it because to help you.
Sure. Sure.
To help you, whether it be as develop you. Because what I'm here for, and what I teach my soldiers is, I'm here so that hopefully you can stand up here one day,
yep, and
you can give what I taught you to them,
right,
to make this place a better place.
That is the greatest compliment to any leader, I think. When I saw some of my assistant coaches do so well in the sport, it was one of the greatest senses of pride for me. And they passed those types of lessons and life attributes on. It seems like that's what you want deeply for your lieutenants and your captains and your sergeants.
Absolutely. Yeah, it makes me feel good. I saw a sergeant that I worked with probably about 12 years ago.
Okay.
And the other day, and I said, oh, what are you doing? He told me what he was doing. He was back here, and he was mobilized. Just came back from overseas, and right now he's a lieutenant. And
right,
he said, because of you, I actually went to officer candidate school, and now he has troops to teach of his own. And that's the greatest compliment I can get right there, is
right,
that I know I did my job with him to teach him to go ahead and give back.
Right. Right. That's beautiful. And, if you think about some of the greatest leaders in the history of our world, Eisenhower, in regards to the military, he engendered a sense of loyalty because of not only his intellect, but also his desire to be the best he could for his troops and make the tough decisions. And sometimes
right,
those tough decisions aren't popular, but you have to make them. And I'm sure that you've had to make those both in battle and now at Fort Bliss. Tell me a little bit about that decision-making process and how maybe something in the rooms of wrestling at Beechwood or in Miami, if you did learn some things there, how did that affect you?
In terms of the decision-making process?
Yes, the decision-making process. Knowing that you knew you had coaches that had to make tough decisions that you didn't necessarily agree with, but you knew eventually that it was good for the program and good for you.
Well, one in particular that I've actually shared many times is basically in the wrestling room, the way that we conducted business was, if you broke the rules, you were held to a standard.
Right.
And there were no easy ways out. So I had a soldier that actually had showed up to formation, and he was out late the night before, and he had been a little bit intoxicated.
Sure.
It happens in the military just like anywhere.
Right.
And we had to eliminate him from my unit.
Oh boy.
And a lot of people had, my sergeant had said, maybe we shouldn't, maybe it should be the right thing to do. First thing that came to my mind was wrestling. Uphold the standard.
Right.
Because at that point, I put in that we uphold the standard, and we uphold it because nobody else upholds it to the way we do.
Right.
And at that point, he was no longer part of the unit. And this is a top producer.
Sure.
But again, They looked back. You held the standard. They looked back.
Mm-hmm.
And from that point on, they knew we're a little bit, I don't want to say better, but we're different.
Sure.
And everybody in the unit knows that when they're in our unit, they're there for a reason. They were handpicked to be in the unit, and we uphold the standard. Unfortunately, this person fell off and didn't hold the standard, so they got to go.
Right.
And what that did was it reassured everybody that, you know what, you're special. You're here for a reason.
Yep. Addition by subtraction. And also, just because everybody else is doing it doesn't mean that we have to go to a substandard. We have to hold ourselves to a higher standard.
Exactly. And I've always been in the military. I've always been in the units that are special.
Sure.
You know, the units that where you're just not, you don't get into them just because you're there. You get into them because you either tested in or you're one of the high performers. And he was one of the high performers, but unfortunately he made a mistake. Like people in sports, you know, you got Tiger Woods who was, caught drinking and driving.
Right.
You know, people make mistakes. Unfortunately, he was a good officer, but he made mistakes.
Sure.
Okay, so unfortunately, you got to pay the consequences. You're no longer in our unit.
Right.
And we had the higher ups that said, yeah, can we make this exception? No, we can't. Where'd that come from? It came from wrestling. We don't make an exception. And at the end of the day, we actually were better off down the road, because when it's going through, you're thinking, oh, this is terrible, it's a bad decision,
right.
You know, we're going to be hurting. But at the end of the day, you look back 2 months later, we're stronger, we withstand the time, and people are like, wow, I'm really, it reassures them that you're there and you got a purpose, and it reassures that we uphold to a higher standard.
And there's consequences for such behavior. And I'm wondering too, have you ever had a chance to chat with that guy, and has it affect him for the positive, that he knew that he can't do that kind of stuff to be the quality that he wants to be? Maybe that changed his life.
Yeah, exactly. When you're going through something that's devastating, because he was handpicked to be in the unit and then he got kicked out. So,
right.
I did see him 6 months later. He did say that he did mess up. And,
yep.
He was sorry that he did mess up.
Okay.
But unfortunately, at least he had the know-how to know, hey, you know what, I screwed up. And you never know what ripple effect that had on him,
sure.
to where maybe he won't make that same decision.
Yes. And that's one of the big reasons why I wanted to do this podcast, is that ripple effect. You said the perfect word, because good and bad do not happen in a vacuum. They happen in a universe. Hey, this is Coach CIMORONI for CIMORONI Couture. We have a Christmas, Hanukkah, New Year's special that we'd love to present to you guys. Buy one suit at $10.95 or higher and get one at 50% off now until January 2nd. Or buy one entry-level suit at $7.95 and get a shirt for free. Check us out at CIMORONI Couture. That's CIMORONI Couture, 216-287-1522, 216-287-1522. When you do these great things and you hold the line on excellent standards, it reverberates and echoes and ripples out. And I'm so glad to hear that that's the mentality in the military today, and leaders like yourself.
No, absolutely.
Fantastic.
And it all stems from wrestling. Really. There's a foundation. Everybody has it, whether it be, they play another sport or they play this or that.
Right.
But it all stems from me, at least, for wrestling. That gave me the foundation. But I was also blessed because I had outstanding coaches.
Well, that's terrific.
And not everybody has that. I think we had talked previously about, you getting paid a certain dollar amount to coach, but it's not about that.
No.
It's about what you're going to give.
Right.
You're going to give what you're going to, give to the youth that's being, developed today, and then what they're going to give back, because you're giving your knowledge to them, what you've learned, but then they're going to give you knowledge down the road.
Yes, the teacher becomes the student, and vice versa. The student becomes the teacher. And I'll tell you what, the currency that you said is absolute. The currency of humanity is really our currency, because it sure is not the fiat of the dollar bill in our sport. So, but right. And the other thing too that you mentioned, and I'm going to coin, and we've talked about this with other guests, Jason, is that our sport is the most honest sport. There's nowhere to hide. I mean, basically, you're naked out there. It's just you and your opponent, and boy, oh boy, there's such mutual respect out there. No matter if you're beating the heck out of him or he's beating the heck out of you, you're both warriors out on the mat, and I really respect that.
No, you're absolutely right, and it's funny because when you're in business and when you see people. In fact, I can notice it sometimes when I see how a wrestler walks.
Right.
Right. And the first thing I'll say to them, "Did you wrestle?"
Yeah.
Because there's that certain, and 9 times out of 10, I'm right.
Right.
Where they the way they conduct themselves.
Oh, tell me you don't look at the cauliflower ears too, right?
Right. Exactly. But the way they conduct themselves,
sure.
Is in a different way.
Right.
Because, like you said, it's you, like the Romans used to do.
Right.
It's you versus them. That's it.
Yep.
And you're either coming out a winner or you're not. And now that I have kids, obviously, if my daughter wants to wrestle, that's fine.
Right.
But I'd rather my son say, "Hey, you know what? I want to wrestle." And if he does, it's going to teach him some great lessons.
Sure.
And it's going to be, "Hey, you know what? I'll get out there and I'll wrestle with you because I know the impact that had when the coaches got out."
Is there anything you can share with us when you were in warfare that really hit home for you, or is it a broken? Is it a code that you don't talk about it?
No, I mean, we talk about it. I don't talk about how many people.
Right. I get
it. That I don't.
Yep.
And if somebody does, then they probably weren't over there.
Right. They're nonsense. Yeah, it's like the guy who says I took second in the state. He didn't take second in the state. How many times have you heard a guy go, "I took second in the state"? No, you didn't. But anyhow, yeah. So
it truly reset my thought process of what life's all about.
Okay.
When you go over there and you get sent to war, I was I was right next to Fallujah, so I was there in 2004.
Yes.
And that was when the Sunni Triangle was very, very hot. Every day, up until that point, our unit lost more troops than anybody else in battle.
Oh boy.
And every day, somebody either died or there was some type of major conflict in the area I was in.
Yes.
So I was in a place that was very, very troubling.
Mm-hmm.
But, you try to make the best of it. You try to look at the positive. You hope that, you make it out alive. And thankfully I did. But, you live every day for the people that did not.
Right.
Because they no longer can. It's really a life-changing experience. You get to see how the rest of the world, in fact, Iraq, how they live.
Yep.
They don't have the luxuries. I share the story of one of my best friends, and you know him, Jim Meeks, who's over there.
Love Jimmy. Great guy.
He got wounded. He was only over there for a month and a half before we linked up.
Yep.
And I was there for a week before he got medevaced out of there. And he got hit by an IED. And luckily, he was able to save his eyesight and his mobility, but definitely still to this day has shrapnel in the right side of his body due to the IED. And he shares a story of he was over there, he got medevaced back, and within a month after the surgery, he's at a dinner party, some function.
Yes.
And he hears these two girls talking, and one of them says, "Oh yeah, I'm having issues. It's so tough and." I don't know which dress to wear, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And he's
earth-shattering decisions.
Right.
Yeah.
And how lucky we are here. And what that gave me was the ability to realize how lucky we are just to go and have the freedom and sit at Starbucks and not have to worry about anything going on. We have that luxury.
Yes.
And that every day I live my life for the people that aren't able to do that. And thank God, I was able to be given that perspective.
Sure.
Of what that world is over there and what we did, and then being able to come back here and really, truly, what is freedom? People can sit here and say, "Oh, yeah, freedom this, freedom that." Well, what is it? Well, I know what freedom is.
Yes.
I know what it is to be able to, put up that flag and say, you know what, people died for it, and, I give my life for it. So to be able to see that, given the opportunity to see battle, and then come back and appreciate it.
We love you for it, and you nailed it. The inane and innocuous issues of first world problems are no problems at all. When people have to worry about fresh water and being blown up and dying of malaria. And I mean, it's just stunning how blessed we are, and for people like yourself to put your life on the line for all of us to continue those blessings and not take it for granted. Not take it for granted. And that's what I think sport, and particularly our sport, does, is not take anything for granted. And I want to thank you so much, Jason, for your friendship, and also how you've helped so many, and how you've paid some of those lessons forward. It really makes me emotional and makes me feel blessed and lucky to have people such as yourself in my life.
Pete, it's an honor. And, going back to Blood Time, there's only one reason I'm here, and it's because of you.
God love you.
So everything we talked about, that's why I'm here.
Well, you just keep doing the work of the United States Army, man.
Army strong, brother.
Absolutely, Army strong. And I'll tell you what, I was never more proud to be an American when I was at that Army-Navy game by Jim Meeks. He invited me, and wow, if you're not proud to be an American at that game with those Warthogs going over and the F-15s, it's just, then you're lost. You might as well go to Canada.
That's right. You need to check yourself in because you got no pulse.
Exactly. Well, you keep doing good work down there. Love those beautiful children of yours and your beautiful wife. And thank you for being part of Blood Time, my friend.
You got it, brother.
We are blood.
You got it. Always, brother.
Thank you so much.
Right,
bye-bye. I want to leave you with this thought of the day. Do not require, do desire deep, full, and true.